Hello everyone, and welcome to Good to Great School Australia's webinar on teaching spelling mastery. We're delighted that you're able to join us today. We have approximately 158 participants who have registered to join us, many of whom won't join but will receive the recording from Raquel on the completion of the webinar. My name's Julie Grantham. I'm a former teacher, principal and Director General of Education in Queensland, and I'm currently the Director of Schools for Good to Great Schools Australia. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all our repeat attendees from schools across every state and territory. I can say every state and territory is represented in the registrations for this webinar. Many of the schools that are here today also use a number of GGSA, Good to Great School Australia's programs in science, in music and visual arts across the learning areas of the Australian curriculum. So today we're looking at presenting for about 30 minutes. But before we start, we have some housekeeping to go through. So I'll ask our moderator, Raquel, to do a quick run through of some of the features that will support us this afternoon.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, everybody, we've scheduled a 10-minute question and answer for towards the end of this webinar. If you look down the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A section. You can put your questions and answer in there. If we don't get to all your questions during that, though, we will be answering them later. Also, at the end of the webinar, we'd really appreciate it if you could answer a quick 3-question survey. It helps us to know what we can do better next time and to also allow us to present the types of webinar that you actually want. And then finally, we use QR codes throughout the actual webinars. And what you'll find is that if you scan the QR code, it will take you directly to the resource that we're talking about on the screen. One thing you do need to know is that you have to be signed up as a Good to Great Schools member in order to go directly to the resource. But if you're not, it will just take you to our sign up page. And remember, sign up's free. Back to you, Julie.
Thanks, Raquel. So the purpose of our webinar today, everyone, is to provide you with the guidance and support that our experience has shown as being essential to an effective implementation of not just spelling mastery, but of any program. So a little bit about our organisation. We're a not-for-profit organisation, so everything that you'll be shown today is free. All you have to do is sign up. But we provide curricular learning support, professional learning support to approximately 3,000 schools from every state in Australia. Our particular focus is on effective teaching and using programs that evidence show work. You wouldn't be here today if you hadn't already heard or read about the impact that spelling mastery has on student results. When we develop any program, our unique point of difference is how we collaborate to innovate. Everything we produce is based on researching what the evidence says. We listen to teachers, to schools, to education experts. Today, I'm going to introduce one of our teaching coaches to you to help me walk through how to successfully implement spelling mastery into your school and your classroom. So Stefani is here with us today, and Stefani has extensive experience in direct instruction and literacy intervention. She has over 5 years' experience of teaching spelling mastery. She's honed her skills in delivering effective evidence-based instruction. Stefani's currently a curriculum developer with our English team, and it's through that team that she supports education in creating really effective research-informed resources across a range of curricula, but all of them that will improve and focus on literacy outcomes for our learners. So over to you, Stefani, to kick us off onto the content of spelling mastery.
Thanks, Julie. And I'm really excited to be presenting with you today because I know the extensive experience you have in not just spelling mastery, but evidence-based pedagogy and your dedication to supporting teachers. So teachers who are new to direct instruction benefit from additional support in delivering the program, as they may not be familiar with the pedagogical approach. So Good to Great Schools Australia provides advice on implementing direct instruction techniques, including consistent use of signals, providing clear instructions, and maintaining pacing. Also managing diverse learner needs and individual errors, including how to address specific errors and keeping students engaged. And also maintaining student motivation and engagement. So including how to provide reinforcement and encouragement to keep students motivated.
So the schools we support, they have access to the full complement of resources to effectively implement spelling mastery. So our wide range of free resources across curriculum, professional learning and school improvement that I talked about. We will provide you with a complete resource kit with a full complement of templates that will successfully support your school implementation. The first thing, though, that I want to talk about is teacher training, because you know preparing well and training teachers for any implementation is essential. If you don't do it, you are not going to get the full impact of that program. Our extensive library of resources will help you achieve this. We have a range of online modules. So these are professional learning modules that you can sign into that are available 24/7 to help your teachers effectively teach the spelling mastery. I strongly recommend that before you do anything, you do the program module called Teach Spelling Mastery A to F. It'll take you through a step-by-step of how to teach spelling mastery. It should be completed prior to delivering any aspect of the program. Then, of course, there are a whole lot of other modules that Stephanie will refer to as we go through, and we call these practice modules. And they're about honing and refining and perfecting the technique you use in the classroom. But in the Teach Spelling Mastery A to F module, you'll learn the content and get step-by-step advice on the program. And we have built these modules by relying on expert teaching coaches. We've filmed people doing these practices so that they are demonstrating the techniques live to your teachers. They're video demonstrations of experts to the camera on showing you how to do the techniques. So there's enormous support there for you to actually access at any time, any aspects of that program, to ensure that you are continuing to deliver successfully.
Yeah, so like Julie said, there's also a collection of practice modules that teachers use once they've started teaching the program and they are finding that they would like more knowledge or to perfect their skills on a certain technique or practice. So these mini lessons are shorter and quick to complete. It's great for when you want to improve on specific practice. Teachers can access these at any time, so they are very convenient to do in non-contact time or even after hours.
So let's look at Spelling Mastery as a whole program. It is a direct instruction program designed to support students to develop their spelling skills progressively. Back in July, our founder of Good to Great Schools Australia, Noel Pearson, delivered a webinar on the power of direct instruction. Raquel will send the link to that webinar when she distributes the materials from today. But what Noel presented in that webinar was the evidence that showed the importance of teaching children at a level where they can succeed. And that's a premise for all direct instruction programs. You start where you can build on success. Spelling mastery it's effective with all types of learners. So our English language learners, older students with poor spelling skills, that's a common question we get. Can this work with high school students? Yes, it can, because it takes you back to the very beginning of spelling, because it builds on the three approaches to spelling: the whole word approach, the phonemic approach, and the morphemic approach. So it combines all of those so that the students are building their knowledge and success and understanding as the programs progress.
Spelling Mastery also has a comprehensive suite of resources. So there's a series guide, which provides an overview of the Spelling Mastery, and the practice lessons for the teacher. Then there's this teaching presentation book. So that provides a script for every task in every lesson. They tell the teacher what to do and say, how to determine correct responses, and what to do to correct incorrect responses. And there is also one student workbook per level. The Good to Great Schools Spelling Mastery Toolkit contains 10 tools that facilitate the implementation and continuous improvement of your spelling mastery implementation. These templates support coaching, observation, and feedback, and how to keep the whole school on track with the data. By establishing a data wall and referring to data progress at the weekly staff meeting, we find that staff can celebrate the students and even their own successes.
Before anyone starts, though, the very first step is placement testing. And it's so important because it places your children in the correct level. Are they at level A? Are they at level F? Each of those starting points are the building block for success. So we test each student to determine their correct placement. So in your class organisation, you might have a child in year 3 and year 4 because they're blended together into how you deliver the program. In larger schools, you can have straight classes. In other schools, you might have composite classes. It all will be situational depending on your school and the size of your school. But the critical part, of course, is to make sure that students are in the level that they can succeed from. And the other thing, it's so critical to get right, is make sure the placement tests are administered before you implement the program. Because otherwise you're going to be having lots of chopping and changing and children changing groups when that's unnecessary if the proper process is followed. The other part of direct instruction and any program in direct instruction is the signals and the auditory signals. So it's important because it ensures students initiate their own response. So your signalling will demonstrate to the student that they have to do something. Stephanie referred to the practice modules that teachers can revisit in their own time, and they can be repeated over and over again until you actually perfect those techniques and those skills of signalling, of all the other practices that go with direct instruction implementation and classroom practice. So, for example, we talked about the practice module. There's a whole module on how to assist teachers to use signalling effectively. It covers the basic essentials, like how to use the signals effectively. For example, the teacher should never signal when they're talking. They talk first, then they signal. And in a little while, Stephanie and I are going to give you a little demonstration of that. The auditory signals are also used throughout the programs as students are engaged in the materials. The teacher says tasks specified in the presentation scripts, then pauses for 1 second. That allows the think time. The teacher then can clap or click or tap as another auditory signal that gives an indication to the student that there's a change.
We also support teachers to check for mastery. So we offer advice as part of our Check for Mastery practice module. And here are some tips that can help you when teaching spelling mastery. So after presenting an exercise, call on individual students to do one or more of the tasks. Call on lower performing students more frequently than higher performing students, and give each student the chance to respond individually in a lesson. Correcting errors is one of the most important skills you must master in direct instruction. Corrections clarify your expectations for your students. We cover this in our Correcting Errors practice module as well. So since corrections are not meant to be as punishment, it is important to present them as just another step in the lesson. For example, anytime the students do not respond correctly, it is considered as an error and it must be corrected. If students do not respond to the signal, it is also considered an error. Correcting errors should never be punitive. When an error is made, individuals are not called out, rather the whole group is corrected together.
The next step that I want to talk about is the student progress tool, because it tracks the school-wide student data. When we have this information available to us, it enables us to make decisions about how we help and assist children that aren't demonstrating that they're mastering the content of the program that they're participating in. The student progress tool, it tracks the student data from week to week. So I know it's an administrative task you have to accommodate, but it's so essential to be able to track the success of students and that they continue to be placed in the right programs. In some of our schools, we have an instruction coach, but other schools may not have that. So I'm just going to call the person that's leading your implementation your school expert. They should look at the data with all of you collegially and suggest remedial action depending on what the data is saying. So if a mastery test has been administered, children haven't passed a number within the group, then something is wrong in the teaching of that lesson. And it should, the advice to the teacher should be go back and reteach certain parts of that lesson not to the whole group all the time. It might be to a small group, 1 or 2. And that's when you can use your teaching assistants to help you to guide this practice as well. The data might tell you that students haven't grasped a concept because they haven't mastered the practice test, the mastery test, sorry, and that's when you reteach. So it's pretty evident in the data what that will say. This is one of the tools that we make available if you're a partner school member. So this whole toolkit that we're making available is free. It's on our website, but you just have to be a partner school member to access it.
Okay, we'll look at a spelling mastery lesson now from level A, lesson 22. So some things to note before we get into this. There is a script with different exercises. So the teacher says the words in blue and the teacher completes the action that is in the brackets and the students respond by saying the words in italics. Good to Great Schools Australia modules emphasise the importance of sticking to the script because the language used to teach these concepts has been designed to be as effective as possible. I'll show you examples of how Good to Great Schools practice modules can be applied to a spelling mastery lesson. Julie, will you be my student as I demonstrate this?
I certainly will. I hope I pass.
Okay. So exercise 1 here is segmentation. It shows a list of items for students to segment. So you might notice the directive term signal. Our practice module signaling advises teachers should never signal while talking. So in this case, the teacher might hold fingers to indicate the sounds in a word or snap their fingers when students are to respond. I'll show what this looks like in practice. Julie, are you ready?
Certainly.
Okay. Listen, math. Say it.
Math.
What's the first sound in math? Next sound? Next sound? Great segmenting. Okay, let's move on to exercise 2. So this is a spelling review. The teacher spells out a series of words and asks students to identify them. Our practice module correcting errors gives advice on what to do when a student makes an error. Teacher says, my turn, and gives students the correct answer. Teacher says, do it with me, and repeats the correct answer in unison with the students. And then teacher says, your turn, and asks the students the question again. Students answer the question correctly on their own. Julie and I will show what this looks like in practice. I'll spell some words. See if you can figure out each word. Listen, T-H-E. What word?
The. Then.
Okay, my turn. The. Do it with me. The. Your turn. T-H-E. What word?
The.
Yes, the. So exercise 3 is a fill-in activity. The teacher directs students to part A of their workbook. Students will figure out what the words should be before filling in the missing letters. Our practice module Check for Mastery can be used to determine if students are on track. So after presenting an exercise, call on individual students to do one or more of the tasks. Within the lesson, give each student the chance to respond individually. Julie, are you happy to demonstrate one more exercise with me?
Certainly.
Okay, so if the teacher was doing a lesson with a group of students, obviously there's just Julie and I here for now, but let's say there was a group of us. I'm going to call on one student to perform the task. Let's begin. So find part A of your worksheet. First, you'll say what each word should be, then you'll fill in every blank. Word 1 should be last. Julie, what word?
Last.
Fill in every blank. Now, to check, the teacher would either say workbook to chin or walk around the room and actively monitor. So word 2 should be list. Julie, what word?
List.
Fill in every blank. Workbook to chin.
So you can see, great student. So what you can see there is the repetitive nature of what we're doing and the guidance that the teacher presentation book provides to you. So what you're doing is not leaving to chance that sequencing that needs to happen in order to build the students' knowledge and understanding of the spelling. And of course, they go into all sorts of technical parts of spelling, and we haven't demonstrated that today, but you will see that in that Teach Spelling Mastery A to F module that is on the Good to Great Schools website, and that is free for everyone to access. So if we now look at where our program and resources are, we have now, I said before, almost 3,000 schools that are using our programs across Australia. Spelling Mastery is a significant program across many, many schools, more than what we support. So it's very widely used right across Australia. But any program that we do has the same careful scaffolding. It has demonstration videos. It has structured assessment tools and detailed teacher support. So that tool we talk about that you can access is available as part of most programs, but in particular, Spelling Mastery has a good toolkit that will support your implementation. And we make these resources available free because we think that demonstrates our commitment to both specialist and non-specialist teachers, I should say, in delivering education in primary schools across Australia. I say that in the non-specialist areas like science or visual arts or music. Many primary teachers teach those programs, of course, but they don't necessarily have that confidence and background and skill to do so. So to access the quality materials we've been talking about today, you need to be a member of our website. So it's just a sign up. There's no cost involved. If you are a member, you can just scan that QR code on the right there and you'd be taken directly to all these links that we've been talking about today. Partner schools is the best proposition in my book because that enables school-wide implementation. Spelling Mastery, for example, done at 1 year level is not going to work. Spelling Mastery is one of those programs that needs to be done right across the school curriculum, the school timetable for every group, and a concerted effort into improving spelling is then able to be demonstrated by the results that students will get. So our school membership, you can sign up as an individual teacher and have access to all those professional learning modules I talked about. If you sign up to the partner school, it's done by a school principal or a deputy principal, then you get a whole lot of additional resources that are available. I've talked about the range of curriculum that we cover. And I can't stress enough the importance of a school-wide implementation. For me, when you've got science implemented to a very high level across the school, you'll get good results in science, where you know that teachers are teaching curriculum that's well researched, that gives them the guidance to have the confidence to deliver that content. And of course, the assessment and reporting tools that also support it, it's a full package. You know, you get the video of how to do it, you get the full package of assessment. So the professional learning modules to me are just a game changer. When we look at how people can access it, how you can use all those things, we think that supports your implementation, and we'll be really happy if you use those to support the implementation of Spelling Mastery or whatever program at your school. So before we move into these final 10 minutes of question and answers, I just want to quickly share the 4 steps that I would urge each of you to make sure are in practice before you implement any Spelling Mastery programs. One is that you prepare thoroughly. You train your teachers in the programs and the tools that will support that effective implementation. That if you're the instruction expert in your school, that you give feedback to people, and it's collegial feedback on how to improve, because that's that collegiality and building and supporting each other that will build our repertoire of practices in our skills for the classroom. That you make time to look at the data, again, collegially. If everyone's looking at the data, they can see how students are moving through lessons, they can see the progress of students, they can see if students aren't grasping a concept and how to go back and to reteach, which is a really important technique in any direct instruction program. And finally, I think I've said it enough, a school-wide implementation is one that will benefit all the school. So let's look into some questions while you've been online. People have been putting in some questions. The first one I can answer this one. Do you provide online coaching? So yes, our member schools do have receive online coaching. The first session, schools usually ask to present to the school team, how they can implement a program. So this webinar could be part of your preparation for that first stage. We share experiences from other schools. We can provide you tips, the useful information, what you can expect. So that people aren't disheartened when students aren't progressing quickly through a program. What are the ideas and the ways that you can support that happening better? We can answer all those questions because we work with schools on a daily basis on how to do this. You've seen some of those documents. That will support you don't have to reinvent it. That will support your implementation. Once you've got, familiar with those documents, we can help you with that. But we can also link you with other schools in your area that you can share with and learn from. And I think all of those activities, if you call them that builds the confidence of your team. And from time to time, we can check in, we can respond to you as you want. And as you build that expertise, we have a model where we give more support initially, but we hope then that the school builds on their own expertise to then sustain the implementation to a high level. So it becomes part of the practice of what you can do. So I hope I've answered that question. That one was from Donna from Cooper's Plains. The next one is, what's the best way to implement teacher training? So I think we've really touched on that. In our program modules, you'll see lots of modules that actually focus on implementing a particular program. So it might be how to implement Aussie Science, how to teach Aussie Science, how to teach visual arts and drawing. It might be how to teach spelling mastery. So we make sure that all of that is available and people can access it at their own times. And you can use that to keep coming back and building the practices of your staff. If you wanted to and you thought that it would be helpful, we can actually provide additional coaching to that one expert in your school to help them become that voice that keeps the program going, reflects on how we're presenting with our data. We can show you how to do paired practice in staff meetings so that teachers are actually building their own practices and with a colleague. And all of that, of course, builds that technique development in your school. We've got 2 more questions. No, we've now got 4 more questions. How do we learn about how to use the data? So that's that module. Remember I talked about the Teach Spelling Mastery A to F? It provides support on how to enter the data. The tools break down the data on attendance, lesson progress, how the children have mastered, and how they record independent work, which we haven't touched on, but is an important part of any direct instruction program. And we can give your school access to our online tools so that you can use them as well. How long do teachers need to implement spelling mastery? Well, we provide this sort of information again in our professional learning module. We recommend to tailor your timetable to your school context. But everyone, we believe, should do spelling at the same time. It allows that flexibility. So if you haven't got the size school where you can have a number of groups across the grade level, it allows you to have groups, and you might combine years 4 and 5 or 5 and 6 so that you can maximize the number of groups that you have available. But if you do that if you don't do that at the same time in your timetable, obviously that's not achievable. That allows that flexibility, and we suggest that spelling mastery should be done for 20 minutes for each day that runs concurrently, that timetable period each time. So let's look at, so Leanne wants to see the QR code again, Raquel. So if you could, and Leanne, when we started, we told you about that you will get a full set of these slides. So make sure that these codes will, of course, all be in that, so you can access this again and again. Julie says, what do you think about repeating workbooks if students show they are not ready for the next book through the placement test? Absolutely, Julie. That's what I hope we've impressed upon you. You can only build success when you've mastered a previous concept. So make sure that you go back, and if kids have to redo, it's better for them to redo than to keep building on a program that they haven't mastered. They haven't shown you that they've grasped those concepts. So you don't have to go back whole, 10 lessons. It might be you just have to redo 1 or 2 lessons to demonstrate that mastery that you want the children to do. So after placement testing and analysis is complete, what happens if the student workbook is too simple for the students? So the A to F covers the 6 years of primary school. So each program is obviously, it increases in complexity and detail. So a student in year 4 or 5 could be doing an F program, or a student in year 3 could be doing an A program, because that's where they're placed. That's where they're placed to actually keep going. I can see that Bernadine has also answered one of those questions, Julie. So there could be a number of issues. So I would need to know more and able to properly respond. For instance, this is a scenario if they're not ready for the next book through the placement test. If they're being regularly tested, their progress and mastery would be known and students would be tracking. So that's what I said. You would have not moved on without that. Okay, so please remember that's a critical part of direct instruction. You don't keep pushing kids onto new programs that they can't succeed at. So one of the questions that Sagri has asked, you did talk about signals. What are the various signals, both visual and auditory? So Stefani can answer this, but you would have seen her clicking or putting her hand out. So it's hard to demonstrate what we're doing, and Stefani can talk about other ones. But in those practice modules, Sagri, one of the things that you will see is a whole module on signalling and when to signal, how to signal, and what to do with signalling. So Stefani, do you want to just talk about a couple of others?
Well, we've clarified in terms of auditory signals. Like Julie's touched on, some of the ones could be a finger snap, but if that doesn't work for you, then you might want to clap, but just something so students are aware when it's their time to respond to you is really important. Other ones, there's a heap of video demonstrations of our teachers implementing this in spelling mastery as well. And like Julie said, you can go through the practice module, which lists all of them. But just being consistent, I would say, with those signals is the most important thing. So not one day you're clapping and the next you're snapping your fingers. Try and keep those signals consistent, whatever they may be. And also ensuring you pause before any signal is really important. So for the segmentation one, like I've demonstrated the main ones that we do recommend, just to give an indication of what's to come, and then the student knows once you've stopped signaling that they've completed, they've done it. So yeah, I guess there's more information in our practice modules of what works for you, but they are the primary ones that we do recommend. That's why we went through them today rather than listing them all.
Okay, so we've got one more question there that's been asked by Penny and by Lisa. What do you recommend for a student who's completed level F successfully last year? So Stefani, you would have seen this through your practice where students in year 6, they've already completed level F. They're obviously got a very good level of literacy. And when they've completed that program, what's the next step for them?
Well, this is where data-based decision-making is crucial. So we would obviously provide support in analysing what areas are still needed for the student to I guess, master. And there are a heap of our program modules. We also have English-based programs that we have designed ourselves. So not just spelling mastery, but it's important to look at the individual's progress and testing based on what are the next steps. So I can't recommend a single thing that would work for every single student, but it's important. That's why data-based decision-making is super important. I think Julie can also add to that in scenarios that we might have had with our previous students.
And we'll also send out some further information on that. We'll make sure all these emails are responded to in writing as well, so you've got access to that. So Renee has asked, will the recording be shared? Absolutely, Renee. It'll be distributed completely to all people who have registered, even if you're not online today. The next one is, what's the cost involved in implementing spelling mastery? And that's from an anonymous attendee. But Kim has also asked, I think, and these tie together, what are the benefits of becoming a partner school membership? We've already purchased the resources from ACER online, but wondering if it means we could collaborate with other schools. So yes, in any of the books, you purchase the book. So no matter where you are looking for support, the school would purchase their books through their normal school budget. What we're offering here is that membership that gives you the toolkit to support you doing all the practices, the data collection, the feedback, and anything else that you need in order to implement spelling mastery successfully. But we will also then, as I said before, link you with other schools who are doing spelling mastery in your area, provide you with that collegial support if you need it. We are happy to train your instruction coach. So there's a whole lot of additional benefits by becoming a school member. The other thing, of course, it's not just about spelling mastery. There's science, and for primary schools in particular, science, music, the arts are all very well represented with the same repertoire of practices. And lastly, Nicole, and then we're going to finish up. So with school-wide implementation, how do schools manage with students who have successfully completed level F? So what do those students do? So I think we've answered that. We would review to make sure they're solid in every area of the program. But there are then other programs that students can go on to. They could do extended literacy. That by them completing level F, they're saying to you, we have actually demonstrated that we have grasped all the spelling concept ideas, and that we have mastered spelling to the level that we need to do. So there are other programs that would be available, that literacy programs. Do they need to do further spelling? That would be depending on the data, if there are any weak areas that the student had demonstrated. But if they've demonstrated mastery, obviously they shouldn't. So that's where we're up to. We're finished recording in a couple of minutes, but before we do that, can I just say to everyone, thank you for joining us. I hope you got a sense of what is essential to do and to put in place if you are implementing spelling mastery, and to make sure that, you know, the teachers are well supported, are familiar, have the techniques that need to go hand in hand. The content and program is one part, but the techniques and the delivery and the effective teaching of the program is just as important. So I'll leave it at that. I would like to thank Stefani and Raquel for their help today, and you can look forward to hearing from Raquel with all a package of the materials. So thank you, everyone, and it's great to see you online today.
Thanks,
Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.